Meanwhile, pay to play? That's the question. A bombshell report reveals apparently the United States secretly airlifted nearly $500 million in cash to the country of Iran the same day 4 American hostages were free.
Yep, the White House now insisting the money had nothing to do with returning our Americans home. It's a coincidence.
Well, Rich Edson is live in Washington, D.C. with the shocking new details. Good morning, Rich. What can you tell us?
Hey, good morning, Steve, Brian, and Anna. And this is from the Wall Street Journal reporting the Obama administration secretly organized a $400 million cash payment to Iran just as Tehran released 4 detained Americans. The Journal cites U.S. and European officials and congressional staff briefed on the operation. The paper describes the payment to Iran as involving an unmarked cargo plane with wooden pallets filled with euros, Swiss francs, and other currencies. Administration opponents claim the timing amounts to the U.S. violating its policy and paying for hostages.
It's absolutely a ransom. I don't know any other reason why you would stack Swiss francs and euros on pallets and put them on an unmarked plane to fly them to Iran. It makes you wonder whether the Iran deal itself was written using cutout letters from a newspaper. In high-stakes poker, there's a saying, if you don't know who the chump is at the table, it's you. Well, unfortunately for us, Obama and Kerry are those chumps.
And the administration denies that's the case. It says that these payments were the results of 2 different negotiations. In a statement, State Department spokesperson John Kirby says, quote, the negotiations over the settlement of an outstanding claim at the Hague Tribunal were completely separate from the discussions about returning our American citizens home. They were conducted by different teams on each side. The funds that were transferred to Iran were related solely to the settlement of a long-standing claim at the U.S.-Iran Claims Tribunal at The Hague. Opponents of the Iran nuclear deal argue any payment to Tehran or unfreezing of Iran's assets amount to giving Iran the funding to support terrorist organizations throughout the region. Back to you.
All right, Richard.
Thank you.
And if it is ransom, is it putting a bounty on Americans' heads while they're abroad?
Of course, absolutely.
That's why we have that blanket policy. We don't pay ransom because it'll just breed more hostage taking.
Absolutely. The President of the United States in January came out and he talked all about the deal, but he never mentioned the $400 million simultaneously.
So why the secrecy?
Well, here's the thing. If it's not ransom, why didn't they mention it back in January? Why did they use the unmarked plane? Why was it all in francs and euros and not in dollars? I know the answer to that. You actually cannot do a business transaction with Iran in U.S. dollars. It's against our law.
Yeah, currently, but who knows, that'll be changed soon since we are making such great friends with our enemies. Meanwhile, Donald Trump saw this, tweeted out this. Our incompetent Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was the one who started talks to give $400 million in cash to the Iran scandal. And we know it's been chronicled, and they thought it would be a plus that it was Hillary Clinton who met secretly with Iranian officials face-to-face for the first time in decades in Oman. That laid the groundwork for the deal, which many people feel the more we find out about is one of the worst we've ever cut, mainly because our enemy has not sworn off the reason they're our enemy, and that's because they're the #1 exporter of terror.
Great point, Brian. The good news is we got our guys back, and this was great video. But the bad news is, was it ransom money? The administration says no. We do know Donald Trump has made a lot of political hay. He said that this particular deal where we give them, close to $2 billion back, a total disaster, to use his word.
He says it's a bad deal, and we asked you what you think, as we always do on our top topics, and James on Twitter says, never thought we'd see the day the Iran government is more honest with its citizens than the U.S. government with its citizens.
And you know why? Because they wrote, does their defense official, that this was ransom.
Clear. Meanwhile, Michael is on Facebook. He says, even if it wasn't technically a ransom, it's absurd that we'd send that money going while this was going on. Taking our sailors hostage should have put at least a 1-month delay on any transfer.
And Connie wrote this. This administration has shown time and again how weak we are. Trump is right. They have no clue on how to make deals.
Just one other thing from the Wall Street Journal article. U.S. officials say that Iran wanted the cash in exchange for the Americans, so Iran could say it got something out of the deal. Look, we just gave them up, but we got the cash. Look inside the hangar.
Tale of two stories, I guess.
And don't you know that Iran likes to embarrass us? So there's no such thing as a secret deal. We've learned that in decades past, and it hasn't stopped. The worst thing is there was an assumption that if we just cut a dealt Iran in, that they would gradually become part of the world community. No official has spoken publicly and said that they backed off any of their terrorist activities. They made things worse in Iraq, and they have absolutely sided with Assad to annihilate the